10 British trucks, 10 stories most drivers have never heard. One of these machines carried loads no other vehicle on Earth could move. Another ran for almost 2 decades on an engine design nobody else dared to build. By the end of this list, you will see why British trucking has never been the same. Number 10. Number 10 is the Commer TS3, and drivers nicknamed it the Knocker. Commer built this truck engine in the 1950s, and it looked like nothing else on the road. Most engines have 1 piston per cylinder. The TS3 had 2 pistons in every cylinder, facing each other, with their tops pointed together like a hand clap that never finished. There were 3 cylinders and 6 pistons total, all driving 1 single crankshaft underneath. The engine had no cylinder head. Instead, the pistons themselves opened and closed the intake and exhaust ports as they moved. A large blower forced air into the engine, since it ran on a 2-stroke cycle and needed help breathing engineers at Roots. The company that owned Commer built this engine using ideas borrowed from aircraft diesel designs from the 1930s. It started as a small project with just a few engineers and grew into a full division. The finished engine was powerful, fuel efficient, and unusual enough to turn heads wherever it went. But the nickname actually came directly from how it ran. Because of its unusual 2-stroke, opposed piston design, the engine produced a highly distinctive, rhythmic knock-knock-knock combustion sound at idle. While some export models sent to Australia and New Zealand had noisier blower gears that added to the clatter, that unforgettable exhaust knock was the engine's true calling card all over the world. Commer even tried to build a bigger 4-cylinder version with 8 pistons. But the company was sold to Chrysler in 1967, and the whole diesel program was shut down soon after. The Knocker remains one of the strangest and most memorable engines Britain ever put on wheels. Number 9. Number 9 is Scammell Contractor, and this truck was built to move things nothing else could handle. Scammell had already built heavy haulage vehicles for decades, but by the 1960s, British hauliers needed something stronger to compete with powerful American-style trucks entering the market. The Contractor arrived in 1964 with a Cummins engine producing 335 horsepower, paired with a heavy-duty clutch and gearbox built to survive constant strain. It used a 6-wheel drive layout, which meant more traction for pulling enormous loads across difficult ground. The Contractor quickly became the truck of choice for tank transport and heavy industrial hauling. Operators could choose between different rear axle setups depending on how much weight they needed to move, with some configurations rated for well over 200 tons of total weight once loaded with a trailer. Its cab was custom-built, tough enough for military use, and comfortable enough for long-haul civilian drivers moving oversized industrial equipment. Through the 1970s, Scammell kept improving the design, eventually fitting some versions with an 18-liter Cummins engine producing over 400 horsepower, along with an automatic gearbox that made handling these giant loads far less exhausting for drivers. The British Army also relied on a version of this platform for tank transport, since few other trucks in the world could match its combination of raw pulling power and dependability under constant heavy use. When people picture a truck hauling something absolutely massive down a British road in old photographs, there is a good chance it is a Scammell Contractor doing the work. Number 8. Number 8 is Guy Big J, nicknamed Big Jaguar, and its story is tied to one of the strangest corporate mix-ups in British trucking. Guy Motors had built commercial vehicles in Wolverhampton since 1914, but by the early 1960s, the company needed a fresh design to stay competitive. In 1964, Guy unveiled the Big J, built around a brand new Cummins V6 engine developed specifically for this truck. The cab came from motor panels and used an all-steel design that felt modern and solid compared to older Guy models. There was just one problem. The new Cummins V6 engine turned out to be unreliable, and Guy had to quickly offer alternatives, including engines from Rolls-Royce, Gardner, and AEC, alongside a different Cummins engine that actually worked as intended. Despite the rocky engine situation, the Big J found a loyal following. It came in several configurations, from a basic 4-wheel rigid truck to a full 8-wheeler capable of hauling 24 tons. British hauliers appreciated its strength and its ability to handle constant heavy-duty work without breaking down. Around this same time, the British motor industry was going through massive changes. Jaguar merged with British Motor Corporation, which then merged with Leyland to form British Leyland. Guy Motors became just one small piece of this enormous new company. While many other brands under British Leyland struggled financially, the Big J actually turned a profit, and it kept Guy Motors alive years longer than it otherwise might have lasted. Production continued until 1979, by which point the Big J had earned its place as one of the most dependable heavy trucks to come out of Wolverhampton. Number 7. Number 7 is Atkinson, a brand built not by one visionary, but by an entire family working together in Preston. The story starts in 1907, when brothers Edward and Henry Atkinson opened a small repair shop for early motor vehicles and steam-powered pull cars. Their brother-in-law, George Hunt, joined the business, and together they built a reputation for quality repair work across the north of England. By the 1930s, Atkinson had transitioned fully into building its own diesel trucks, moving away from the outdated steam technology that had defined the company's early years. Atkinson Trucks earned a reputation for using proven, high-quality components rather than cutting corners. They fitted Gardner diesel engines paired with David Brown gearboxes and Kirkstall axles, a combination hauliers trusted because every part had already proven itself reliable elsewhere. After the Second World War, the company expanded rapidly, eventually producing double-deck bus chassis, massive off-road dump trucks capable of carrying up to 100 tons, and specialized 6-wheel drive vehicles for construction and mining work. Atkinson became known by its distinctive circular badge with the letter A in the center, a symbol drivers across Britain came to recognize instantly on the open road. By the 1960s, Atkinson introduced twin-steer trucks, giving drivers better control and stability when hauling heavier loads across the growing motorway network. The company briefly considered offers from both Foden and ERF, two of its biggest rivals, before eventually merging with Seddon of Oldham in 1970 to form Seddon Atkinson. Even after the merger, the original Atkinson name and badge remained a symbol of quality that hauliers specifically sought out when choosing their next truck. Number 6 is the Foden and ERF story, and this one begins with a family split that changed British trucking forever. Edwin Foden started building steam engines in Sandbach, Cheshire, all the way back in 1856. His company grew steadily, eventually producing some of the finest steam wagons in the country, vehicles so well built that operators trusted them for decades of heavy work. But by the late 1920s, the writing was on the wall for steam power. Diesel engines were becoming more efficient, more practical, and cheaper to insure, since insurance companies had grown wary of steam boilers. Edwin's son, Edwin Richard Foden, believed the company's future depended on switching to diesel completely. He pushed hard for this change inside the Foden boardroom. The board disagreed. In 1931, Edwin Richard Foden resigned from the very company built by his own father, taking his son Dennis and a small team of loyal engineers with him. 2 years later, in 1933, he founded a brand new company using his own initials, calling it ERF. The very first ERF truck rolled out carrying chassis number 63, matching Edwin Richards' exact age at the time. Meanwhile, back at Foden, the original company eventually came around to diesel power too, producing its first successful diesel truck in 1931 using a Gardner engine. Both companies went on to thrive separately for decades, each based just a short distance from the other in the same small Cheshire town. Foden became known for rugged dump trucks and heavy haulage tractors, later developing its own distinctive two-stroke diesel engine used well into the 1970s. ERF built a reputation for reliability, using proven outside components rather than manufacturing everything in-house, a strategy that kept costs down for hauliers while maintaining strong build quality. Two brands, born from one family disagreement, both became pillars of British trucking history, standing as rivals just miles apart in the town where it all began. Number 5. Number 5 is the Bedford QL, and this truck helped keep Britain moving during its darkest wartime years. When the Second World War broke out, the War Office needed a reliable 3-ton truck capable of handling rough terrain across multiple battlefronts. Bedford answered the call with the QL, its very first military vehicle series. Entering full production in March of 1941, soldiers quickly gave it a nickname, calling it Queen Lizzie. The QL used a 4-wheel drive system, essential for crossing muddy fields, sand, and damaged roads across Europe and North Africa. It carried a 6-cylinder petrol engine producing 72 horsepower, enough to haul supplies, troops, and equipment reliably under difficult conditions. The truck came in several different versions built for specific jobs. Some carried anti-aircraft guns as tractors. Others served as mobile wireless stations, command vehicles, or fuel tankers. The most common version carried troops directly into position, playing a critical role in nearly every major campaign Britain fought during the war. Bedford produced these trucks at an incredible pace, building around 12,000 units per year during the peak years of 1942 through 1944. By the time production ended in 1945, a total of 52,247 QL trucks had rolled off the line. After the war, many of these trucks continued serving military forces well into the 1960s, while thousands more were sold to civilian buyers and converted for farm work, construction, and general haulage. The Bedford QL earned its place in history not through flashy design, but through sheer dependability when Britain needed it most. Number 4. Number 4 is the Scammell Pioneer, and this truck could climb over obstacles that would stop almost anything else. Scammell introduced the Pioneer back in 1927 as a cross-country vehicle, built around an unusual suspension system called a walking beam bogie. This design allowed any one of the truck's rear wheels to lift up to 2 feet off the ground while the other wheels stayed firmly planted, which meant the Pioneer could crawl over rocks, ditches, and rubble that would leave ordinary trucks completely stuck. The British Army first purchased a single Pioneer in 1932, equipping it as a tank transporter with a permanently attached trailer capable of carrying 18 tons. At first, military planners were not entirely sure what to make of this unusual vehicle, and additional orders did not come until 1937. But once the Second World War began, the value of the Pioneer became impossible to ignore. Nearly every Pioneer purchased by the British Army used a Gardner 6-cylinder diesel engine producing 102 horsepower, paired with a power takeoff system that could drive a mounted winch for recovery work. Throughout the war, Scammell built these trucks not just as tank transporters, but also as heavy recovery vehicles, pulling damaged tanks and equipment off battlefields to be repaired and sent back into action. By the time production ended in 1945, over 3,400 Pioneers had been built. Many stayed in service for decades afterward, since their toughness made them nearly impossible to wear out. The Scammell Pioneer proved that sometimes the most important truck on the battlefield is not the fastest one, but the one that can go absolutely anywhere and still get the job done. Number 3 is the Leyland Octopus, and it became the truck every other 8-wheeler in Britain had to compete against. In 1934, a new law changed British trucking rules, allowing rigid 8-wheel trucks to carry significantly more weight than 6-wheel trucks, as long as they met certain safety standards. AEC was actually first to build a rigid eight-wheeler with an internal combustion engine, but Leyland was close behind, launching the Octopus just months later. The Octopus was based on Leyland's existing six-wheel Hippo truck, with an additional axle added to increase the total legal weight it could carry to 22 tons. The design proved so solid that Leyland barely needed to change it for decades. Through the Second World War and well into the 1960s, the Octopus remained fundamentally the same dependable machine, and hauliers loved it for exactly that reason. There were no surprises, no experimental features that might fail. Just a proven engine, a proven chassis, and a reputation for showing up to work every single day without complaint. Waiting lists for new Octopus chassis stretched on for months at a time, since demand consistently outpaced what Leyland's factories could produce. Even as newer trucks with more modern features entered the market through the 1960s and 1970s, the Octopus kept selling, eventually remaining in production into the late 1970s. An extraordinarily long run for any commercial vehicle. One expert on British trucking history summed it up simply, calling the Octopus the definitive British eight-wheeler for most of its production life. Few trucks in British history earned that kind of lasting trust from the people who actually drove them for a living. Number two is the AEC Mammoth Major 8, and this truck won a race most people never even knew was happening. After that same 1934 law opened the door for heavier eight-wheel trucks, AEC moved fast, determined to be the very first manufacturer in the world to build a rigid eight-wheeler powered by an internal combustion engine, beating out steam-powered attempts that had come before. AEC succeeded, launching the Mammoth Major 8 in 1934 under the internal name Model 680, available with either a petrol or diesel engine, depending on what the customer needed. Only 33 of this very first version were ever built before AEC quickly rolled out an improved model the following year. This second version was over a ton lighter than the original, a direct response to competition from Leyland's rival Octopus, and also to new tax rules that charged more for heavier unladen trucks. AEC kept refining the design through the following decades, eventually introducing the Mammoth Major Mark III in 1948, powered by a 9.6-liter diesel engine paired with a 5-speed gearbox. This version could carry a full 15-ton payload, an enormous amount of cargo capacity for the era. The Mammoth Major line stretched across multiple wheelbase options, engine choices, and axle configurations, giving hauliers exactly the setup they needed for their specific work. Whether hauling construction materials, fuel in tanker form, or general freight across the country, the Mammoth Major built a reputation as one of the most versatile heavy trucks Britain ever produced. Being first to market with that eight-wheel design gave AEC a head start that shaped the entire British heavy trucking industry for years to come. Number one is the Scammell 100-tonner, and nothing else on this list even comes close to what this truck accomplished. In 1929, Scammell set out to build the largest lorry the world had ever seen, and the result was almost impossible to believe. Only 2 of these trucks were ever built, both designed by an engineer named Oliver North. The 100-tonner could carry a full 100 tons of cargo, and on at least one recorded occasion, it hauled an astonishing 165 tons in a single load. The engineering behind this truck was as extreme as its size. Early versions ran on a massive 7-liter petrol engine that burned through a full gallon of fuel every 3/4 of a mile. An incredible rate of fuel consumption, even by the standards of the era. A few years later, engineers replaced that engine with a new Gardner diesel engine, improving fuel economy to a much more reasonable 4.2 miles per gallon. The front axle alone carried 10 tons of weight, and there was no power steering of any kind, meaning the driver needed serious physical strength just to steer the thing. The rear section used an 8-wheel steerable carrier bogie, capable of supporting 80 tons on its own. Because the truck was so long and so heavy, a second crew member sat at the back specifically to operate the rear brakes. Since the driver at the front could not see or communicate directly with this rear steersman, the two crew members stayed connected through a telephone line, running the length of the truck, allowing the driver to call back instructions on exactly when to apply the brakes. Given its extreme size and weight, the fully loaded 100-tonner could only travel at a maximum speed of about 3 miles per hour. This truck was built specifically to move enormous railway locomotives from a factory in Leeds to the docks in Liverpool, a job no ordinary vehicle could handle. It succeeded completely, proving that with the right engineering, there was almost no limit to what a truck could carry across British roads. The Scammell 100-tonner stands as the ultimate example of British engineering ambition, a truck built not just to do a job, but to prove it could be done at all. 10 trucks, each one built to solve a problem no other vehicle could handle. From a family split that created two of Britain's most respected brands, to a truck so massive it needed its own telephone line just to stop safely. These machines proved that British engineering could rise to meet almost any challenge the road put in front of it. Which one of these legendary rare classic trucks would you have wanted to drive? Let us know in the comments below.